Hi everyone, it's Nancy from Into the Rabbit Hole with me. So I kind of took like the week off of school because I'm experiencing a little bit of burnout, and which is to be expected when you homeschool like year round. So what I ended up doing is I just took the entire like week off of school, like as of last Friday, and then we took obviously the weekend, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and now it's Thursday, and then I'm just gonna take tomorrow off. But I'm feeling rejuvenated, I'm feeling refreshed, and I'm going through some of our older curriculum. And I remembered WriteShop Junior. Now, this isn't going to be a consistent thing that I use in this upcoming like school year. And I already used 75% of this, I would say, last year. And there's like a few units in there that I specifically didn't touch because I felt it would be better suited later on while we did something else. Well, now that time has come. So I figured what better time than to do a flip through with my YouTube friends. So if you haven't subscribe. I'm not as consistent on YouTube, but I am pretty consistent on Instagram if you want to follow me over on Instagram. But I'm trying to change that because I find a lot of value in watching YouTube videos, and I hope to be able to benefit somebody else with curriculum style questions and stuff, because heaven knows I have my fair share of like curriculum and stuff. So WriteShop Junior, this is book E. Let me make sure I'm in the frame. So this is book E, and they also have the regular WriteShop, and that's for older kids. So your WriteShop Junior can be for your younger kids, I think through like 6th grade, I think is the breakdown. And then they have regular WriteShop, which is from middle school to like lower high school if you want to use it for that. I believe, if I remember correctly. So here's a teacher's guide, and then here is the student worksheet. So first off, you should know too that I have a whole entire highlight on this on Instagram where I'm actually showing you all the moving pieces that I'm about to talk to you about, and I'm showing you how I put it together and things of that sort. So if that interests you and you want to see more of that, and also how I used it day to day, I have an entire highlight on Instagram, Into the Rabbit Hole with me, okay? But I modified this a whole bunch. So there's a grammar component that comes along with this, and they have you do like this whole setup with like a 3-ring binder and a lot of stuff. And I actually did it and I hated it, which again, check the highlight because I think I actually share that over there, highlight on Instagram. I hated it. I did not like it. And I was really excited when I first started to use this because I thought that they were tying in grammar, like they would introduce a grammar concept. Like let's say the use of commas in a list, right? So I like candy, comma, cupcakes, comma, and cotton candy, right? And they would integrate that into the writing, like specifically lay it out and be like, make sure that your student uses at least one list with the use of commas in their writing, something of that sort. That's just an example. They don't do that. So it's not as interwoven as I would like into their writing. I still think this is a really awesome curriculum. It's scripted, and it's very, point. There's a lot of room for expansion. There's a lot of room like to modify as you want. And I have modified a ton. But what I do like about this curriculum is there's a lot of modeling, and it's like a slow release. So instead of you just jumping in and showing an example and say, okay, this is what we're going to write, we're going to jump in, we're immediately going to start brainstorming, we're going to do this. It's more of a slower, gradual release. So you're doing things together, and then you slowly are releasing, and then you are, actually, let me rewind. You're doing things just you, and you are the scribe, and you are the one writing it. And then it gradually releases to where both of you guys now are doing something jointly together and doing it together. Then it's slowly releasing some more, and now the student is doing it on his own in a scaffolded process. And I really like that. It's what I call, and I don't even know if that's a technical term, like this like it's a you do, we do, no, I do, we do, you do. It's kind of like a slow release like type of thing. So anyway, I'm going to show it to you. I got the ebook because I'm always impatient. And when I get it in my head that I want to do something, I'm just like, I'm getting the ebook, but they do have that as an option. So they have an ebook as an option, or you can just wait patiently for it to come in the mail, and then it will come in the mail and you can have like a hard copy. So let me just make sure that my name and address isn't at the bottom of these pages, because sometimes that happens in the digital files. Nope, nothing. All right, so I'm going to show you, I guess let's do the teacher's guide first. Now, remember, there's a whole grammar component that goes along with this, but I never used it. And so I don't have it to like show because I just never did it. So let's take this very first lesson, writing a fable. So it tells you your objectives. You're going to be writing a fable. You're going to practice developing voice by giving characters strong character traits, and you're going to review and learn about parts of a sentence. So here are your resource packs. Here's that grammar pack that I was just telling you guys. There are graphic organizers, everything's split up into like different days. So this is not a lesson one done in one day type of thing. It's not even necessarily a lesson one done in 1 week type of thing. It's more like you're just doing little chunks of it over an extended period of time, you know? But if you want to do it all in 1 week, it's definitely feasible. And I did that with my son. So I would do one lesson in 1 week, and that's how we did it. And so you have these different activities to kind of reinforce the concept before you even get into the brainstorming phase of it. Once you start getting into the brainstorming phase of it, now you're getting into like the meat and potatoes of it and stuff. But prior to even getting to here, you see this other stuff that's like happening before you get to there. So anyway, it tells you the required supplies that you're going to need. And so like for this one, for instance, for activity 1.2, you're going to need dice. And then some of the stuff may be set up for the rest of the lessons, you know? And then here's the other page. Oh, excuse me. And then for lesson 1.7, flexible craft foam sheet, preferably self-sticking, tacky glue. But again, I found that sometimes if I didn't have the supplies, I can just modify it using the supplies that I had, you know? So I didn't stick to this like to a T. Like if they tell me flexible craft foam sheet, I wasn't out like making a separate purchase just because I didn't have it, unless I absolutely loved the craft that was going to go along with it. And I was like, oh no, I want to do it exactly like that. Then I would, you know, but otherwise I just subbed out with whatever I had. So anyway, so here's activity 1.1. And they're going through, like, let me bring it up closer because this is the very first activity that you're going to be doing. So they're explaining to you how to put together your fold and go grammar folder. So it kind of looks like that so you have your manila envelope, like your manila file folders is kind of what you're going to be using, or your three ring binder. And then you're just kind of like cutting out these pieces of paper so they kind of stack that way. Again, go see like the highlight because I'm pretty sure like I shared in there, but I was not impressed. So anyway, for this very first activity one, and I'll show you like another lesson too, just so you can see without this like pre-curriculum prep work, you know? So anyway, a note about advanced prep. So they're just kind of telling you how to advance prep, like all this stuff, right? Here are the directions to do it. They're working on sentence structure for the very first grammar one, like your subject and your predicate, you know? And then compound predicates. So I think they're going over simple and compound predicates and simple and compound subjects. So they're going over that. And then you have like a reading log that you can do. We did not do the reading log. Okay, so here we go. So now you have lesson 1.2, an overview of the writing process. So you have pre-writing. See, you're gonna model and teach. It's an oral activity focused on demonstrating new skills. Then you have your skill builder, and then you're getting into brainstorming, your writing project, editing, and then your publishing. And then you have some tips and stuff. If the student is unfamiliar with fables, spend a few minutes preparing for this lesson by reviewing activity sheet 1.2 fable character chart in the student worksheet pack. And I'm going to show you all this stuff. So what I did is I would take what they were giving me as like a baseline, and I would supplement with like other things because we like fables around here, and I just devoted an entire day to like just doing fables as part of his literature block that day, you know? So I would just incorporate fables into the literature for that day, you know, just to further extend this. All right, so now you have a pre-writing activity. You have a great fable race. You're going to take out cards, and you're kind of like the first player or team rolls a die and picks up a matching piece from the table. So if he rolls a 2, he picks up the piece with the 2 on it. And so basically what you were doing with this is, if I remember correctly, you were kind of putting together a story, if I remember correctly. And so like the cards were kind of like, if you rolled a 2, you got to pick from the character stack. If you rolled like a 1, maybe it was from your setting stack, you know, and you were like slowly like build a story that way. But sometimes we wouldn't even do the games. Like you see the note right there. If your child doesn't like competitive games, simply take turns rolling the die and build the fable together on the same game board. So if you don't feel like doing like a game, you can just kind of like lay all the cards out. And you could be like, okay, here's some characters that you can pick from. Which character do you like? Okay, what setting would you like to pick from? And then you can just like pick from the stacks. It's just kind of helping you like build a story up together. All right, but then you get into this like modeling. So this is what I like about the program is every single lesson is like set up this way where it is you doing something and then you guys do something together and then eventually the child does it on their own, right? So it says with show your student the wind and the sun, explaining that this is an example of a fable. Read the fable out loud while you look at it together. Okay, so we're focusing on the dialogue and the prompts being an important part of this teaching lesson. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're really highlighting the dialogue, that we start a new paragraph, the punctuation, like that kind of stuff, you know? And so you're prompting and steering them into the things that you want to discuss. And here's a script. So and then you're talking about this. So in our first WriteShop lesson, we're learning about fables, and then you're telling them what a fable is. Another interesting thing about fables, the characters don't have names. They're just called dog or farmer or son. And so in fables, the characters have personality traits that match the lesson the fable is teaching. That means that each character's voice helps teach the lesson, and their words and action together help give that character a unique voice. So if one character is sneaky, the other one is honest. If one character is selfish, the other one's going to be generous. So you're using the characters to teach a lesson. So you need to assign them specific personality character traits. So, and it teaches an important life lesson called a moral. And then it says, our writing sample is called The Wind and the Sun. In this fable, what moral or lesson is it trying to teach us? And this is a suggested child response, you know? Instead of trying to force people to do something, try to persuade them. And then it's scripted. That's right. In ancient Greece, a writer named Aesop wrote a collection of fables. We call them Aesop's fables. And then it goes into that, and you're just kind of like discussing it, and it gives you like a script. So if you're familiar with core knowledge, it's like that, you know. This is even more scripted than core knowledge. You can go according to the script, pre-read it, and then just kind of like teach the same concepts and the same takeaway with your child, as opposed to being like blah, 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 you know. But it doesn't hurt to have this, and you can just kind of go down the thing and ask the question. So you're kind of going into what's a fable? Why are specific character traits very important to the specific characters? It's because it's trying to teach us a moral of the story. So if you have somebody who's sneaky, you got to make sure that you have one on the opposite end of the spectrum, you know? So anyway, so that was it. That was that first activity. So that was an activity you did all on your own, right? So this was this was 1.2, right? So you did a card game if you wanted to do the card game, and then you read this, and then you did the whole scripted thing, right? And then that was it. And then for 1.3, you're choosing a voice. So this one I actually remember quite well because I thought it was really good. So you had pictures of different animals, and you would assign them character traits. So a fox typically is known as being a sly or sneaky character, right? Really witty. And so it was really cool kind of like seeing that, because it's like we do have an idea based on the fables that we've read and all those other books that, you know, you're going to have like a trickster character. Like which one's the one that creates mischief, plays tricks on other? I think they had like a monkey and stuff. And so that was a good trickster one, like a lazy character. Like which animal would you view as like a lazy character? And they had pictures of those animals. And I think they even had a separate card with like adjectives, and you would match the animal with the adjective. And I thought that was like a really cool one, because again, it's having you think a little bit deeper about the characters. So that way, when you're picking your character for your Fable, you see how important it is to pick the right character to demonstrate the character traits that you're trying to impart in your moral lesson. You know what I mean? So I thought that one was a really good one, and that one really resonated and connected. So anyway, so for lesson 1.3, you're learning about the voice of a character is essentially what this lesson is. So you're kind of doing this and you're building your character, you know? It's just having you like think of it. You know, a lion is usually viewed as sometimes it can be lazy or it's very prideful and arrogant. You know what I mean? Like the lion. So it's kind of just scripting you again and having telling you how important dialogue is, that you have to have some sort of like dialogue to move the lesson forward, that if it's all just narrative, it's not as impactful than if you had a combination of dialogue and narration. You know what I mean? So anyway, then you're starting to brainstorm some character traits here. And hopefully in the student worksheet pack, I'll show it to you. Hopefully it's in there and I didn't already like take it out. I just kind of like saw this and I grabbed it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to share it on YouTube for anybody else that's wondering about this, because when I first started to look for this curriculum, I didn't see like a lot on YouTube. Hopefully that's changed, but if not, then at least you guys can watch this video, you know? So anyway, so now you're looking at the character traits and you're going to have them thinking of, you know, what kind of character they want, what kind of voice do you want them to have and things, you know what I mean? So anyway, and that was pretty much it. And then there's a journaling time where they spend like 15 minutes uninterrupted, and they can, says do limit the journaling session to 15 minutes or less, you know? Do consider using a non-ticking timer. Just praise them for whatever they want to write. You know, we did not do that, but that's there. Anyway, so then you have activity set 1.4, and now you're going to start brainstorming. And they're going to start thinking about their beginning, middle, and end, the type of protagonist and antagonist character. They don't use that terminology yet, but just who the trickster is and who the opposing force is going to be, you know? And then you're going to be writing a fable and putting it together. But the way that they put together the things too, there's always something cute. Like you're not just typing it up on the computer or writing it on a piece of paper. There's always something cute. I'm trying to remember what that was from here. Let's see. And then you have this editing and revising. Oh, I think he was going to make a stamp, and that's why you needed the sticky foam, because a sticky foam board, you were going to cut it out into like the shape of your character. Like for instance, like you were going to have a piece of like foam craft board like this, and then you were going to cut out another piece with the character on top, and you were going to like create like a stamp type of thing. And I think that's what they were going to do as part of like their craft or something. There's always something really cute that they have you do for it, you know? Yeah, you're doing see, press stamp into the stamp pad. That's what they were going to do. Use a small paintbrush to apply a thin coat of paint to the stamp, and then they can do that on their report. So on their fable that they end up writing it, they were going to stamp it, you know? Yeah, make a stamp. They always have like a final project. Anyway, let me show you like one more. And then evaluation. But see, even if you do one a day, it's still taking you 8 days. So this is not like, oh, you know, expected to be done in 1 day or even 1 week or even 2 weeks. Like you can split it up into like 3 weeks or a month. Okay, so here's one, writing with humor. I think I remember this one, and we had a lot of fun with this. It's a lot of like Mad Libs is how they had it done. So the focus is on humor and dialogue. So again, with dialogue. And then it's telling you you're going to need your fold and go grammar pack. But again, it's not really interwoven into the writing. But what I did is I interweaved it myself, you know? So if the concept in the beginning, when we were doing our compound and simple subjects and predicates and that kind of stuff, I just had him focus on that, on writing a couple sentences that had a compound predicate or a compound subject or something like that, you know? So anyway, here's lesson 2. This is writing with humor. I guess your grammar concept for this one is the 4 different types of sentences: declarative, exclamatory, like interrogative, those type of questions, you know? So that's what it's talking about. You're spending 1 day reviewing those grammar concepts. That's the very first lesson. And then your next lesson now is silly stories. You're going to remove activity 2.2 at the fair from the student worksheet page. Yeah, you're adding silly words to an existing story to make a funny new story. So this was a lot like Mad Libs, like where you would kind of insert your own word in there, except that they don't have you look at the story first. So they don't have you look at the story and plug it in. You would ask them questions like, give me an adjective give me an adjective, like what's the first adjective that comes to your mind? And then they would say it and you would write it down. And then you would ask them a series of questions like that. And then you would take that and automatically plug it in that exact same order in the thing. And it created like a really funny story, you know? So my son really loved that. So anyway, and you're creating like a new funny story, you know? So then you had that. And then you could have kept on going and revising it if you wanted to. Now you have your model and teach. So today you will be modeling writing with humor. Sample dialogue will guide you to introduce and teach the new concepts. So, and they always tell you when modeling and teaching, write on a piece of paper as you sit together or write on butcher paper on an easel. And it says spend 20 to 30 minutes doing this. So again, with the script, you're reading The Three Fancy Pigs. So here it is. And it's supposed to be a humorous story. And then you're going to be reviewing and introducing dialogue. Ask your child what she already knows about dialogue. What is it? What does dialogue look like when it's written down? It has quotation marks. How do you know who's speaking? Because it has taglines. And so on and so on, right? And also about not always saying said. Said the pig. Said the monkey. Like change up your taglines, you know? And then again, with the script, it's just telling you exactly like what to say, how to move the conversation forward. That's it. And then on the next day, you're doing this next activity. You're doing, you're going to use a thesaurus to look up synonyms or antonyms of common words that we want to avoid. So think of 5 common words associated with this item. So they're going to show us something. Think of 5 common words, like common words to describe breakfast: eggs, juice, cereal, eat, morning. Common words to describe elephant could be animal, big, trunk, gray, and tusk. And now you're going to be using a thesaurus or something, and then you're going to switch it on and think of something different, you know? And so instead of breakfast, you can say, it's our first meal of the day. We cook omelets and have a drink made from oranges. Sometimes we make pancakes. If her word is breakfast, then you would just use more descriptive words, you know? So anyway, that was that one. And then you have a journal entry where they give you like some journal topics and stuff, and you're trying to create like a funny story. And they're just free writing for like 15 minutes, you know? Now you're starting to brainstorm, and they always give you graphic organizers to start organizing your story and putting it together. And then again, it's just giving you more instruction to read additional stories. If you need to get those creative wheels turning a little bit more, then try reading some of these books. And I would get some of these from the library too anyway, you know? And so I just liked making and interweaving it as part of our literature. And I would just bring in those stories, you know? Yeah. Brainstorm a funny way to change the title and write it on the worksheet. For example, The 3 Little Sheep and the Big Bad Ant. The Little Wolf Who Cried Boy. Goldilocks and the 3. The Princess and the Broccoli. Black Riding Hood and the Snow White and the 7. That was helpful for us because I think he ended up using one of those. You know what I mean? So anyway, it just gives you like some tips and stuff, you know? Like here's Goldilocks. It looks like she's in a dinosaur's nest. You know? Okay. And then here's your writing project. Now they're going to start using the brainstorming page, and they're going to start to make a draft. And then you can take some smaller steps and mix and match, because you can combine a couple different stories, from Goldilocks and the 3 Bears to the 3 Little Pigs. Like you can mix and match the plot line of those stories together, you know? And then now you're going to edit it. And then you're going to do the final check. But see, there's always like some sort of cute activity. So you're going to make a small little book and it's giving you step-by-step directions. And this is what you're going to display the story in, you know? So you have this. Like, it's just so, it's cute, you know? That's my dog. Oh, look. That's what it's going to look like at the end. So it gives you step by step how to assemble all the pages. So then we're making their book into like a little booklet and stuff. There's always something like really cute. So anyway, I think actually there was only 2 in here that we didn't get to. But to be honest, I'm kind of thinking I may redo some of these because I think that they're really cute. I do really like this. I think that it's really well done, you know, especially if you just have a kiddo who needs a little bit more of a creative way of writing, then this one's cute because there's always really cute elements in it. Like, so for someone maybe who's a little bit more writing resistant, short, but I just make sure that I tweak it to match like my situation, you know, I tweak it to match my kid. If my kid doesn't like doing all those games, we don't have to do all the games. I would just modify that game to where it's just more of a like lesson where I have like the things like laid out, like that one card game that they were talking about, like, oh, have them roll the dice. And then depending on the dice, that's the thing that they're picking from. I just laid out all the different like card categories. And then I'd be like, okay, so we're going to pick a character from this stack. Go through it, see which character you'd like. Okay, pick a setting from the stack. Which setting do you like that you want to do? And then we would do that. Okay, this is the, I don't know, whatever the other categories of the cards were, right? This is that. Let's go through the stack and pick one. Okay, now we have all 4 of them together and we're going to start drafting a story to go along with it. And I may have done a little bit more modeling than even here did, because in the very first one you saw that they always do it together, right? There's always writing that you do together. But then I may have done one on, like, not on my own, but he was narrating to me and I was like, I was scribing and he was narrating and I had input in it and we were tweaking it together as we came along with it. And then the next day he would do it on his own, a new storyline. Does that make sense? So anyway, all right, let me show you what the student pack looks like. And this is just the student sheets. So remember for the Fable one, so for the Fables, you had all these stories in here, these fables. The character traits, so the wind was forceful, overpowering. The sun was persuasive and cunning. And what was the moral of the story? Persuasion is stronger than force. So they went and did that. And these were one of the sheets that we were supposed to review. So here is the graphic organizer for who are your 2 characters, because you're going to need, you know, a good character and then kind of like the naughty character. So which are your 2 characters? You have your beginning, middle, end, and what's going to be like the moral of the story. And then they would use this to create their draft. And then I'm not going to show you the next one because I just realized that we wrote in it. And then proofreading marks. Oh, here was like that Mad Libs type of one. So this is the humorous story. So there were specific questions that I would ask them. So the way that the directions say is ask them these things, but don't tell them the story yet. And when it's all done, then you read the story. So I would ask him, pick a number between 50 and 150. And he picked 47. What's a girl's name? Rose. What's a boy's name? Lincoln. What's an adjective? Give me any adjective. Silly. Give me any noun. Give me any animal. You know what I mean? And that's how, and I plugged it in. And then at the end of it, I would read the story and he got such a kick out of it, you know? So here's your journal prompt. You know how I kept saying that they always have the child write for 15 minutes, like a journal prompt if they want to do it. So this is what that looks like. So you have Little Miss Muffet, and here's the poem. And think of funny ways you can change this popular nursery rhyme. Don't worry about making the words rhyme though. Just think about how you can tell a funny story. It doesn't have to rhyme like this. I think it would be funny if, and they would just write for 15 minutes, you know? All right, now I'm going to show you the next one because my son wrote in it. But let me show you. So I didn't show you guys this one in the student guide, but just so you guys get like an idea on what it looks like. So you have your main character, you're setting your problem, and it's talking about like you're going to spin this was an adventure story, if I remember correctly. So now they're going to write an adventure. Actually, let me see if I have like a table of contents. Hold on a second. In the very beginning, if there's a table. No, I didn't print it out. because it lets you know ahead of time, like all the different styles. So let's just go through this and I'll show you that. So this was an adventure story. And look, isn't that really cute? So here's your template because they're going to write it and they're going to do it like that. Every story, there's like some cute way of presenting it. What would, okay, punctuation marks, scoreboard. I'm trying to see if I can tell you what the theme of some of these are. Oh, this was a science one. So writing like a sci-fi, I think it was. Writing like a sci-fi story. I think that's what it was, sci-fi. See, like with the robot and everything. All right, what's the next one? A mystery story. So this one was a mystery story. So I like that. You can kind of like match them up and stuff. All right, so we're still in the mystery. Oh, a shape poem. I want to redo this one because I thought it was really cute. So this is going over shape poems. And then you have your concrete poem. And you have a sensory wheel. Yeah, I wanted to redo that one. And there's a pre-writing activity in here. That's good. This is really cool. Yeah, that's really cool. Okay. And then, what is this one? This one, I think this is a directional one, like an instructional. I think. But they have a preview of it and you can see exactly like what themes are going to be covered, you know? Oh, this is an opinion one. So this is an opinion one. This is a book review. So they have an opinion one, a book review. Oh, I like that for synonym. Fishing. Yeah, this is probably some sort of card game. Yeah, so you can see there's like a whole, there's a variety of styles of writing. So there's mystery, there's poetry, there's going to be informational, like a directional one. There is a book review. What else was there? But you can see that there's a wide variety. And so this is book E. And I think this is one of the later ones before you have to go into the regular WriteShop one. There could be a book F, I think. I think there's a book F, which is, I think, the very last one before you go into WriteShop. And then they have younger ones, you know? So anyway, hopefully that gives you like some idea on WriteShop. I like it, but I just have to tweak it for myself, you know, on what works for us. But I plan on implementing some more of these. I'm thinking about possibly getting book F2 so I can do like the 2 in here that I didn't do last time. I also want to revisit the poetry one because that one was a good one. And so I'm thinking that I may pick up like the book F2 and like just do it every now and then and stuff. It's not going to be a consistent thing where I do this every single week, but to switch things up every now and then, I think this is going to be really good. So stay tuned because I may just get book F, and then if I get book F, I will do like a flip through and I will show you like all the things, okay? So anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy seeing what you see. If you enjoy seeing what you see, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye, guys.